Hey, welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah. Today we have a special guest, Megan Walton. She may or may not be related to one of the hosts.
Hey,
See if you
everybody.
can guess.
Hey, everybody. We have a special guest, my sweet niece, Megan, who's a superstar in her life. And that's why I wanted to have her on because she's got a big job, a big family, a big life, always super busy. I see her as just like, juggling 18 balls at the same time. And I thought she'd be a perfect person to have on the show because we have talked about codependency and how do you manage it and how do you deal with it and how do you navigate all these arenas of relationships. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and the categories of relationships and things you may struggle with. Take it away.
Love it. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Finn. I mean, this is so cool to spend time with you too. I just love what you're doing with your channel. And I think the message that you are shepherding out in the world is just so critical. And I think, one of the one of the many lenses that I could come at this conversation with is that I'm a mom of three young kids
Mm.
and I'm married and I have a full-time job where I'm running an organization. And then, of course, I have passions and friends and things on the side. And, it's so funny, Sarah, when you just said Megan is really busy, because I actually have so many thoughts about the word busy. I actually hate when people describe themselves as busy.
Tells me I'm busy all the time, and I'm like, don't put your busy on me because I'm just doing the things I enjoy.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, I feel like the only thing, our greatest gift is time, and how we spend our time and how we show up for our time and how we prioritize our time says so much about who we are.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I could go in a million different directions, but I think especially as a young mom, it is just so easy to get swept up in the my kid needs this. I need to sign up for these activities. He's behind in math. She's ahead in this. And ultimately, I feel like the most important thing is, what is your relationship like with your child? And is it the relationship that you want? And what is your relationship with yourself?
Mm.
So key. So how would you say, what do you think? Do you think most moms are concerned with something else, like how people perceive them rather than how they really feel about their relationship? And how would you say you prioritize the relationship with your child rather than kind of their activities or something else? Like, can you explain that or extrapolate a little on that?
Mm. I mean, I would say that I think it is so hard to be a mom
Yes.
today. I mean, it was always hard, but I think right now, if you were to go on social media, you might see like only the happy pictures or only the funny pictures or one angle of someone's life. And as you both know, like parenting is way different than that. It's all of it. And um, so I think there's a lot around like just like the showmanship of motherhood that we could do a whole episode on. But I see people just really, again, kind of swept up in parenthood instead of really taking a step back and saying, out of everything we could do or the many ways we could spend our time, like what's most important?
Yes.
Most recently in our family, we've really committed to family dinner a few nights a week, right? Like we can't do it every night a week. One, I don't cook, so that's the problem. And two, my husband travels, we've got different work events, but I'm like, at least for those 3 hours a week, like we are totally in the zone with our kids. All three of them are talking at once, but we're practicing going around the table and everybody sharing and listening and asking questions.
Mm.
So, I just think, motherhood completely rocked me like it does everybody. And then the pandemic was added on top of that. And so I'm just consistently saying, okay, how can we reshift? How can we, make small changes that are going to have a big impact on ourselves and our family?
Yes.
I'm
Huge.
constantly amazed at parents who they'll tell me what their kids are doing in the day on the weekend, and they're literally the parent has no life. They want to be with their kid, but they're just running from activity to activity. And by the time you see the kids on Sunday, they're walking zombies.
Yes.
And everybody's irritated and they're trying to like manage their emotions, and it's insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think a huge part of parenting and what I see with codependency in parenting is parents have a really hard time this sounds so basic, but just letting their kids have their feelings, because it's so uncomfortable for parents to kind of feel their own feelings about their kid being upset. I did this Instagram live thing yesterday, and this woman was talking about her biggest difficulty is letting her son, who's now in his 20s, feel sadness and grief because he had a loss. And I said to her, it's being a human being. We're all just human beings. And part of the human experience is navigating, how do we manage our feelings? Sadness, anger, fear, whatever, anxiety. And I think so often parents think it's their job to take it away rather than just allowing it to happen and not taking it personally, which is
And
another
we all
thing.
know how validating someone else trying to take our feelings away feels.
Yeah. Right. So how have you navigated that? And the importance
Oh
of
my
that. Yeah,
goodness.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely a journey. It's not
And
like
there's
you
a
just
balance.
wake
Right.
up. Yeah, it's not like you just wake up one morning and it's like, oh, this temper tantrum is totally fine and happening
That's
at the
right.
exact right time. It's like, oh my God, I have to get somewhere, or we need,
Right.
but um, I think just again starting with ourselves, right? Like, I don't feel happy and content and upbeat 100% of the time. That would not be normal, right? We have to have our highs and our lows because that's the human experience.
Right.
And I think for kids, it's just they're learning how to feel those feelings and have those reactions. Um, and they're always going to be at the worst moments.
Yes. Yes.
They're, yeah.
And I do want to add to that, like when you were talking about the temper tantrums, like the minute I said like validating feelings, there is the other side as well as a parent, which is when to set boundaries, when to set limits. I mean, it reminds me of this experience I had with Bo, my son, who you know, and when he was like, I don't know, 12, just lost it with me and got super angry about, I think I didn't buy him a video game or something. And it was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, that witching hour. And he didn't scream at me. He was just having kind of a tantrum. And I said, you need to go outside and just run around because I don't want to listen to it anymore. And he literally ran around the house screaming. And then I just eventually went outside and I said, enough. Like, okay, enough now. And he just stopped, because it's like, it's one thing to kind of let your kid have their feelings and acknowledge them. And then it's another thing to like, how do you set boundaries? And I do think with parents, that's another thing that's really hard, is when to set a boundary, how to set a boundary, how to tolerate your feelings about a boundary. Sorry if I interrupted you, but go ahead. Sorry.
Didn't interrupt me. I was thinking about my experience with kids and their temper tantrums, and what I've witnessed is the parents up last minute running around screaming at their kids they're in a rush because they have somewhere to be, and then the kids throwing a fit because they want to wear like snow boots on a sunny day, and it turns into this struggle and battle between the two. And I think that, I mean, my parenting experience is as a step parent to 30-year-olds. So it's quite different, although there's similar stuff that comes up. But what I've witnessed, and I worked in behavior management with children, so I know like consistency, and I know how easy it is to be like, all right, today I'm working from 8 to 4, and I'm going to be consistent with these kids with oppositional defiant disorder, and I'm going to go home. Totally different story. But I do know, like what you were saying earlier, like the temper tantrum and you have somewhere to be and whatever, that if what I've seen, the parents that manage their own state tend to have less of an influence on the children's state going awry. That doesn't mean it never happens, because I've
Right.
seen all sorts of things. But
Right.
I was curious how you navigate. I mean, your job's pretty important. You're a CEO. Navigate the
Right.
competing needs or between your children and your job. And that's a huge thing. And I think that women, especially mothers, get judged far more harshly. Like, it's almost assumed that the father, and this isn't for you guys out there that are great dads, very involved, and it's not a part-time job for you. Awesome. But I'm talking about the ones who there's just a culturally this idea that that's the woman's job. Those are her children. And the father gets to go out and work and then come home and like, well, I'm home from work now. And they're not now parenting and putting the kids to bed, although some do and many do, but that scenario. So I was just curious how you navigate that, because that's got to be a lot of pressure trying to keep yourself balanced. And then, also going home and parenting and.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good question, Finn. And I think, pretty early on in my current role, where I've been for almost 5 years, it was very clear to me that like I needed a strong team at home as well as it at work. Because to your point, I was finding balance during the week, able to get home, be present for, of course, dinner, bedtime, be there for them in the morning. But then I found myself doing like 7 loads of laundry on Saturday morning instead of having quality time with the kids, or I was spending 3 hours at the grocery store every Sunday afternoon and packing stuff. And so one of the real blessings of the pandemic is that we found like an incredible nanny, and we had never really even considered nanny as like a way to provide childcare and consistency for our family. But having a nanny has been a game changer for me. It's been a game changer for our relationship. It's been a game changer, I think, for our kids. And again, it's not just childcare and okay, I know somebody's there to get William off the bus today, but it's really that she has given me quality time back.
Right.
So that when I'm home on the weekends, I'm not preoccupied with the lists and the this and that. Of course, there's always a little bit of that because we're women and we just can't help but like create a list. Again, like really recognizing that the best gift I can give my kids is like a happy, healthy mom, so that when I am with them, like I've been energized at work, right? I've enjoyed what I've done. I've been able to get in, that workout or that walk or that good lunch with a friend. So then when I'm home and I'm being a mom, like I'm really enjoying being a mom. And I'm not distracted or kind of in a million different places. So I think it's important, like women need permission, sadly, today. Like women need permission to really build up again a team or support or a village at home so that you can still have a life. I mean, that's the other thing too. At some point, our kids will be, hopefully out of the house, right? And I don't want my only identity to be as a mom. I feel like, of course, it's core to who I am, but the more that we can nurture our identity outside of being a parent or in relationship with someone, like just the stronger sense of self-independence that then you bring to that relationship at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah. And also it's modeling for your children. Like when you're doing self-care and, I have friends that they're not always the perfect parent that they want to be, but they go to their kids and they apologize and say, I didn't handle that the way I should or whatever. And going out of the house and interacting and coming home and being a certain way is great modeling for the children as well.
Right.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, as the relationship to codependency, so much of mothering and not doing it well, I think, is when we're overextended, we're exhausted. We might be in codependent relationships where we just let go of our own needs and our self-care. And I say to people all the time, what your kids want is for you to be happy. I mean, kids want their parents to be okay. They don't want their parents to be fighting and arguing and in trauma and in chaos. So I think that's connecting it, like taking care of ourselves as moms impacts our ability to be a great mom too. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's really true.
And we keep talking about your children as a collective, but they're all, I'm sure have their own personalities and needs from you, and they're not all the same, I imagine.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So different, each and every one of them. And I think, I'll often joke with friends, right? It's so easy to get caught up on like the time that you screwed up as a parent, like when you were late for pickup and you heard about it for the next 20 minutes, or, there was the temper tantrum and you weren't you didn't have the perfect response. And I just wanted to call out that, I've had this amazing experience with my kids over the last month, as I was sharing with both of you at the start of our call, which is that I've recently recorded my first song, singer-songwriter, right? Recording a song. And I have shared that experience with my kids.
Oh.
And there is something so magical about when you share what you are like passionate about and what brings you joy, and like when you light up. Sharing that with my kids has been the most incredible thing that I never could have imagined, right? I mean, we played like the first cut of the song in the car like 42 times on the way home. We were out, we were like watching the eclipse, we played it. And then before I knew it, they were like, okay, well, we should work on getting this song out there. And so my 7-year-old, like, he's the most organized ever. He went into like party planning mode. We're going to do a song release party. And then Tommy got word of that and he was like, okay, I want to help with the goodie bags.
Oh.
And then Emma just kept talking about, and again, like we get so caught up on like the things that we did wrong or didn't do enough. We just really encourage parents, like, do fun things with your kids. Like, let them see you happy and joyful and doing things together. My husband does this with golf with them, and they're just like totally plugged in. And I'm thinking to myself, like, when do I get to just, sit by the side and watch them golf, because it's not my joy, but they get into it because he's into it. So really just like giving permission for parents to just like have fun and stop worrying all the time about everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to point out a dynamic because it just kind of came to me. So when you were talking about the shared experience where you're taking your joy and what you love singing and songwriting and your, song releasing and sharing it with the kids, and your husband with the golf, I was thinking about how so many parents are putting their kids in activities and running around following them, and their whole life is sort of given over to them.
Right.
And that's actually modeling giving up yourself for them, and where you're actually bringing your kids into your experience, I think is like, that's incredible. I had never really thought about it that way before, but let them be a part of it too. And I think so many parents just keep it separate. Like, this is my stuff, now I'm parenting, as opposed to the family unit enjoying things together. So hats off to you. I think that's great. I think that's a great
message.
Yeah.
Yes. Last thoughts, my friend. Anything.
Oh, well, I think everything is, to your point, Finn, I mean, everything is fluid. So to try to compartmentalize your life all the time, especially as like a working mom, it's impossible. So like, just stop trying. And, allow the pendulum to swing sometimes, maybe more towards family or more towards work or more towards your hobbies or self, and I think the greatest gift we can give our kids is just being cognizant of ourselves, right? Figuring out how we can show up in the best way with our best version of ourselves, so that we're then there for whatever comes our way that day or that hour, or sometimes that minute, Oh,
absolutely. Okay. Lastly, if you want to download Megan's song, you can find it on Spotify, anywhere else.
Yes, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on Amazon Music.
I just found it on Apple Music, and it's Megan Walton, and it's free. It's called Free. What do we do here with codependency?
We always talk about finding freedom is the core journey of codependency. And the title of Megan's song is Free. So go download it today. And we are so happy to have you on the show. Parents, chat in the chat place. Yeah, that's me.
Somebody's tired.
Yeah. Let us know, let us know if you can relate to Megan and these parenting issues. I'm sure you can. We're so glad to have you on today's show. Thank you, my sweet friend, and fasten your seatbelt.
We're
We're
outta
leaving.
here. Oh.